Hi folks. Okay, we're back. This video I want to do on something that we've got a lot of feedback on lately is actually how I go about laying out a sign. You know, you guys that have seen a lot of our videos know that I'm kind of particular about balance and measuring and making sure everything has a nice balance to it and a flow to it. So here's a sign. Actually, I'm going to show you 3 different signs today. Here's a sign that I've got to do for a customer, and this is his layout. Now, what I've done here is I've actually printed this out, and I don't always do this, but I really recommend that you guys do this for yourself, especially as you're starting out. You can see that this is a letter somewhat like our Clarendon letter, but it's actually a Times New Roman letter. See how it has serifs and you know, little curls at the top and the bottom. The main reason I would suggest to print it out and have it in front of you when you're laying your sign out is, number 1, spelling. Make sure that you do your spelling and make sure that your printout is spelled correctly, so then you can have that in front of you when you're laying out your board. The second reason is that it's really common, and we're seeing this quite a bit, is these N's and these A's and these U's may be backwards. So see how on this U, and I think I'm pointing to it because I'm looking at it from behind, see how it has a wide side and a narrow side. Well, it's really easy with the layout letters to get that backwards, so then it doesn't look right. So on the U, the wide side is on the left and the narrow side is on the right. On the A, the narrow side is on the left and the wide side is on the right. So it's really easy to get these backwards. And here's a big one, is N's being upside down. See how this is a point, but the serif you have a here and here. So, you know, it's really easy to get those upside down if you're not used to it. I've done, you know, a few 100,000 of these, so I never get them backwards anymore or upside down, but I used to do it all the time. So if you print these out, then you know exactly how the letter is supposed to look, and the chances of getting it backwards or upside down is greatly diminished. So that's the other big reason for having it laid out or printed out, especially when you're dealing with serifed letters where you could get them backwards. Another one is the S. A lot of times people get the S's upside down. Generally speaking, it'll be narrower at the top than it is at the bottom. So, and then another one is M's. You see a lot of times you'll see a W as an M, upside down W as an M, or the other way around, an upside down M as a W. And you'll notice that the M is straight on the sides. So if that was upside down, it wouldn't be a W, it would be an upside down M, because a W would have, I don't have any W's on here, but a W would have an angle on the sides. So that's how you would know that, especially on a font such as this. Okay, so I'm going to put this down. I'm going to swing around, and we're going to lay this sign out. I've got everything pretty much set up, and then Dad's going to film over the top of my shoulder so that I don't have to lay it out upside down, and you guys don't have to see it upside down.
You want to kind of hold the board up so they can see what you're going to see the board with, with that stein on it too?
Yeah.
Just kind of tip it up a little.
So what we have is the customer wants this as their copy, but they also want a beer mug on there. So I've got a little beer mug that I've got on here, and once I move around the table, I'll explain why I did it the way I did. When you've got a board, this is a 12 by 24 board. Let me just move around here. When you've got a 12 by 24 board, and I wanted and you've got artwork, I hope you can get in here, Dad. You've got artwork that is kind of squarish. It would make sense in this particular instance to put it on the end of the board rather than down underneath. Now, in some cases, I would put beer mugs at both ends, but because I want my letters pretty good size and I want them to kind of fill up the board, so to speak, I wouldn't want to put a beer mug on both ends of this, because then I'd really have to squeeze my copy into a really tight space, and I want my letters bigger than that. So in this particular case, because of the way my artwork is more squarish, it's about as high as it is wide. It wouldn't make sense for me to put that down here unless I was going to do some really weird layout on it. So I like the idea of putting it at the end. Then I can kind of blow it up and make it pretty good size.
And how are you going to get that onto the board? With carbon paper?
I've already done this. You guys know that this is the way that is an easy way to get it on there. So I've already actually carbon papered it on there. I've done that before. And this is a piece of clear pine with a sanding sealer on it, like you guys know I do. So that's already done, so I can take that off. I just wanted you guys to know. That's just something I found on the internet, printed it out, blew it up to the size I wanted to, and then I carbon papered it right on the board. So Dad, hopefully you can kind of follow what I'm going here.
Yeah, no problem at all, son. Everything's looking good.
Move stuff out of the way. So here's our copy. I've got all my letters that I laser cut because this isn't our standard style. This is a Times New Roman. I cut the layout letters the size I needed them with a laser, which you guys know we can do that if you guys have a special layout, special font. And
now we can make special font, or you can spend $10,000 and buy a laser and do it yourself.
Yeah, or you can, honestly, you could print this out just like this is, blow it up, use carbon paper like I did here, and lay out the sign that way. It's just very time consuming. For me, I'd rather have layout letters and then spray it with the ink. Okay, so we've got 3 lines that are going to be the same size, and that's what we've got here, and then 1 line here. Now, something to take into account is the fact that I'm going to do all this outset, and this bottom line is going to be inset. So that comes into play when I actually make my lines on the board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out, just figure out where I'm going to put my lines. So I just use these 3 letters to kind of judge where I'm going to put my lines, and then my bottom line is going to be, I've already made a couple marks. Now what I did here, because this is inset, Dad, can you see, are we on camera? Because this is inset, obviously I can get it a lot closer to the bottom of the board. This one I can't get that close to the top, because then I'll run into the edge with my cloud. So what I've done is basically I want my sign to be balanced top and bottom. That's about where I want that. I make a mark up here, and then that same balance, and then I figure that's about going to be where the top of my cloud is. So I'm going to drop that letter down to about there to give me plenty of room to get around there with a cleanup. Now these letters, I'm going to just kind of eyeball where I want them. Get that out of the way. And this, of course, I need room down here for my cloud also. So now I'm going to take my square and I'm going to make marks on the board where I want those lines. And this is, you know,
hold that square right in front of the camera so they can see it.
This is an adjustable square, so you can get.
They can't see that. It has to be down.
Okay.
Okay, that's good.
All right. So again, this is probably old hat for most of you, or a lot of you that have been making signs and doing this for a while. But maybe some of you, brand new, are not used to exactly how you go about doing this. Again, I'm really kind of a stickler for balance and having everything, you know, being looking aesthetically correct. I get in trouble. I used to get in trouble a lot when when my wife and I would go to people's houses, because I'm a freak when it comes to straightening pictures on the wall if they seem to be out of square. So, my wife used to smack me around every once in a while. But I have much more self-control nowadays than what I used to. So now we've drawn lines on the board. We know where our lines are going to be. So now we're going to take our letters and kind of set them on there. Now, this is our longest line. You got that, Dad?
Yeah.
This is our longest line, so that's the one we're going to set up first, and then everything else is going to balance off of that. So what we're going to do is get these letters on there. H-A-U-S. see how it'd be really easy to get that S upside down. How it's really narrow here, but it's wider there. The wide always goes to the bottom. So now I'm going to take, and I want this line balanced between the edge of the board and my my beer mug. So I'm just going to say, say about 1.5 inches and about 1.5 inches, and I will get those letters set on there the way I want them, and then balance it out. And it's going to be maybe just a little bit inside of there. Again, these will change where you're setting these letters depending on whether they're outset or inset. I know I'm carving these outset, so I've got to give myself enough room to get around those letters with the profile bit. If I was carving them inset, I could put them together to where they were almost touching if I wanted to. I wouldn't have to, but they definitely could be a lot closer together. But I wouldn't want them much closer together than this if I'm doing them outset. So there's that. Now this top, I'm just going to make a mark at say 4.5 there. And now when I'm measuring from, I'm balancing the over the top in between these.
Bring the tape from the end. Yeah, that way they can see it. Otherwise your arm was in the way.
So that's about 4.5 and 4.5. We'll see if that works out. And that is going to just about work out. Okay, now tap room. TAP. So now, probably come in about, from the edge of that S, come in maybe about 1 inch, and I'll make a mark here. Let's see if that's going to work. Yeah, I'm going to bring it in just slightly. Once my mark is there, then I can adjust it and kind of balance it from side to side if I've got a little bit too much room. So I came in just slightly from those marks. Then now we'll go with our established 2014. So I'm going to come in, let me see here. I'm trying to do this in a, I normally would probably take a little bit more time doing this, but being as I'm on camera and I don't want to bore the heck out of you guys. Alright, so I'm going to come in probably about 1.5 inches there, and from the outside of that T, 1.5 inches. Now these are going to be inset. See, I've got way too much space, I think. I don't want them that far apart. So I'm going to come, that was 1.5 inches. I'm going to come about 2.5, and then 2.5, and that might be a little crowded actually. But again, these are inset letters. Yeah, that's going to be about right, I think. And I'm going to put a period here. I didn't cut a period for layout, but I'm going to put a period there. So that's pretty much it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up and I'm going to spray it while it sits right where it is. First thing I'm going to do is take my copy that I know is correct, go over it letter by letter, and make absolutely sure that I don't have something transposed or backwards as far as letters go. THESTEINHAUS, TAPROOMEST 2014. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now, the next thing I'm going to do before I spray is just go over letter by letter and make sure they're straight up and down and they're fairly square. All my spacing in between each letter is consistent. See, I think I need to move that over just a hair. And I've got consistency all the way through. Looks pretty good. How's it look, Jack?
Good.
All right.
Looks good on camera, son.
So now, I forgot to plan for this, but I just need to put something over that mug so when I'm spraying, I don't spray that mug with black ink. Now, you guys, and I've heard about some stuff, and I've seen this, something I've been needing to address. You know that if you've done very much layout with small letters, if you're not really careful, they'll fly on you when you hit them with that spray. I know that that's an issue because it's an issue I used to have a lot. So, one of the first things that you want to make sure you do is keep your ink cool. And I've talked about this before. Keep this in the refrigerator, or if you're out somewhere, keep it in an ice chest like I do out here with a block of ice on it, you know, just one of those blue blocks of ice, so it stays nice and cold. So this is, you know, really cool to the touch right now. Right now it's about 100 degrees out here in Arizona. Nice afternoon. So that's the number one thing. The number two thing is the warmer it gets in this can, the higher speed it's going to come out of this nozzle. So that's why you want to keep it cold. So I would always spray my smaller letters first, because the more this is at 100-degree room temperature, the faster it's going to warm up. Now, so when I spray, I've got to get an idea of where I'm at in conjunction to the board. So I'll kind of test it by just making a real quick, let me get it flowing here, a real quick spurt. So when I do these small letters, hopefully I won't make them fly, now that I've said I really know what I'm doing.
What are you, about 14, 15 inches above?
Yeah, I'm probably over a foot anyway.
Yeah.
And you can always adjust down, but if you start here and I spray it right here, that thing's going to fly for sure. So I would rather start high and work my way down. Now when I'm spraying, especially small letters, I won't just hold it down and run with it. I'll do it in just really short spurts. See how I'm just kind of, and if I need to get it a little bit more, I will, but just really short spurts like that. That will almost ensure that you can keep those things from flying on you. And even these big ones will fly because they're not, you know, they're not real heavy. So the other issue is sometimes it will fly on you if you're trying to get too much ink on the board itself. So when you're laying these things out and you're using layout letters the way we are here, just take your time, don't be in a hurry, and just nice little short spurts. And that is plenty good enough to give you, even though, I don't know how close you can zoom in, Dad, but even though you have a little bit of, I don't know what you want to call it, maybe sparseness there. When the letter is sitting there, watch when I take that off. That's a perfect line to carve by. There's no problems with following that line at all. So it doesn't have to be, you know, a puddle of ink in order to have a really good sharp line. Even though that looks like it might be, I don't know, can you get in that? I don't know, can you see that, Dad? See how it's kind of not real exactly black and white there?
Want to lift that up?
But when you take that letter away, that's a perfect line for carving. So you just don't need it really heavy. So that's the issue with these things flying is, number one, you don't have your ink cool. Number two, chances are you're spraying it too heavy. And number three, you're not doing it in little short spurts the way I did here. So that will probably go a long ways to you guys being able to keep those layout letters from flying. Now, you know, I probably did, it's so warm out here, that's already dry, so I'll just take those off. I normally would just let them sit there for a while. But there's my layout. You got that, Dad?
Yeah.
Okay, so then I'll go on and I'll draw my lines, top and bottom, and you guys know that that's what we do. But I'll go ahead and do it on camera since we're here. And this is, just to reiterate, this is just to make sure that when you're looking down the board after everything is carved, your lines are correct and everything looks right. It makes sure that all of the tops and the bottoms of your letters are all consistent. So when you go around there and start carving, you'll see where you're at in conjunction with that pencil line. And that's about it. So what I'll do here is I'll just draw my little period to make sure I don't forget that. Now on this one, actually, the customer actually wanted 2 dots above that house there. So I'll just kind of freehand that. But you might use little washers or little nuts. And then of course, you know, this is going to have a cloud to it. And normally I don't even draw this cloud, but again, you guys may be beginners, so you might want to do this just to have that. So that's basically it for that one. Now we'll move on to something a little bit easier.